Hello my friends and welcome. This is the latest update from the front lines. Let's go straight to Avdiivka because there are some of the changes. For example, Ukraine went on a counterattack near to Severne. So before Ukraine advanced from Stepove, pushing Russian forces out from the railroad, yet we don't have the update from the deep state military map, but we have it from the other sources. So Ukraine tries to expand the recent success, continue pushing from Stepove and also creating the new counterattack vector near to Severne. So this is Avdiivka and this is Severne, so Ukraine went on a counterattack. Russia uses artillery to target our forces and Russians were forced to retreat a little from that area. You see that Russia continued to use aviation bombs and artillery shells to target the positions of Ukrainian army in Avdiivka, basically demolishing that town. The most successful Russian attack is over here into the industrial part of the city. Many of the pro-Russian bloggers said that Russia occupied all of the industrial part, but it's not real. The fight for it still continues, even though some of the Ukrainian forces withdrew from the place. However, the new reinforcements were sent and Ukraine uses artillery to target the Russian positions, so they are unable to deploy their infantry everywhere in that place. About the northern part, Russia is unable to move to Stepove. As I say to you, they were forced to retreat. That's why they moved a little bit towards the north part of the front line. So let's go to what it was yesterday. So yesterday and today, just a slight movement. They took this forest line under their control, but just few meters were taken, again with huge losses from the Russian side. The Ukrainian army would like to push Russians out at least to Krasnogorivka, but Russia continued to send more and more reinforcements. So all of the Russian infantry and vehicles that were ambushed before with the Ukrainian attacks and counterattacks are constantly renewed by the Russian army. I don't know why they sent their forces with such a small portions. It seems like they are not yet ready for the massive attack in attempt to encircle Avdiivka town. Again, this road over here, Russia already called it the Death Road because they have tremendous losses over there. Dozens of vehicles, hundreds of the bodies of the soldiers. But as it was for Russia during all of their wars, they continue to send the meat waves again and again. They don't care about their losses. I still wonder how simple Russian soldiers find the motivation to go and just die on the front lines, because according to statistics, 80% of their soldiers have the similar or same destiny. They basically lose their lives on the front lines, that's it. But you know how Russia find the men to serve in the Russian army? They increased the salary for their soldiers recently. Not long time ago, they paid around $4,000 up to $5,000 per each soldier right away if they signed a contract with the Russian army, and later on they pay something between $2,000 and $3,000. Also depends on the region where the soldier was taken from. Well, just a couple of weeks ago they increased the salary, so the first payment is now $7,000 right away for the newcomer into the Russian army. Imagine, $7,000 is more than average man in Russia earns per year, plus $4,000 monthly. It's crazy money, especially for the Russian village. Even though 80% of the Russian soldiers would never use those money, but at least the first salary they may send to their families, they may close the credits in the banks, pay their bills or whatever. So even some of the wives and relatives are pushing their husbands to go and die in Ukraine. Again, especially on the countryside where people drink a lot of vodka and where the social level is very low in Russia. Plus, in Russia it's very difficult to find the job with a good salary. That's why there are many volunteers for now who would like to go and join the Russian army. Now Russian army actually expanded to more than 400,000 soldiers. I'm speaking about the part of the Russian army which is used in the war against Ukraine. So 400,000 soldiers is the huge number even compared to Ukrainian forces. We have nearly 900,000 soldiers in Ukrainian army, but not all of them are fighting on the front lines. The same goes for Russia. So for Ukraine, I think 300,000 soldiers are now fighting. The rest parts of the front lines are more or less standstill, but speaking about Robotine, there is the active fight ongoing, but without the movement of the front line itself. Just yesterday Ukraine moved a little, but for today there were no new achievements registered for Ukrainian army. Russia tries to repel the Ukrainian attack in this sector, and also they try to perform their counterattack, so far unsuccessfully. There is the point that concerns me a little, and here we speak about Kupiansk. Russia tried to perform the small attacks all across this part of front lines, and we see how they accumulate resources in this region, so I think that the big attack of the Russian army towards Kupiansk is imminent. I don't think that it might happen this winter time. However, if the frosts would come and the soil would be more or less robust, I think Russia might use this particular window for their attack, but for them it's better to perform it during the springtime. So again, we expect one more big assault from the Russian army during the spring of 2024. Plus, our intelligence says that Russia might try to assault towards Kiev as it was in 2022, because they are creating the new army somewhere in Kursk. They reorganize supplies, so maybe they're gonna try to advance towards the northern part of Ukraine once again. But it's early to say about it, because last year there were some rumors about it which were fake. In Kherson Oblast, because of the terrible weather, there is no any movement. Now Ukraine secures their positions across the Dnieper River, taking all of this territory under its control. Okay, just yesterday I spoke about the Leopard 1A5 tank that was already spotted by our journalists on the front line. Our guys gave the interview how they used this tank, and today the first loss confirmed by Ukrainian army of this particular tank. So it fired towards some of the Russian positions, probably on the open field. The tank is alone over here. As you can see, it's quite fast going back, much faster compared to T-72. It's the advantage of this tank, but it was targeted by the Russian artillery. The crew left the tank immediately, and that saved them. Luckily, the armor was enough to protect the crew. Hopefully every crew member survived that case, and later on Russia continued to shell the place. They didn't hit the tank in particular, but the shell went very close to the tank, as you can see on this picture. So shrapnel or debris of the shell caused damages to the tank, because as I say to you, the armor of this tank is quite thin compared to the modern day tanks. The A5 modification, however, has the extra plates on the turret for protection. Sometimes it might help. Well, I think that all of the crew members escaped the tank, because I see two of the hatches open on the top, as well as the driver's hatch. From what I understood, the tank requires 4 crew members to operate. In the Soviet tank you need 3 crew members, because the reloading is automatic. On this tank it is manual, and this tank is very big compared to the Soviet-made T-64 or T-72 tanks. The advantage of the Leopard 1A5 tank that it's fast, and also if it is maintained before, it should be reliable. The disadvantage is obviously the armor, so if Ukraine continue to use them as they used this one, we're gonna lose many of them, because the main idea of the tank is to break through the defense lines, through the trenches, where the Russian army has no tools to cope with this tank. But this one in particular could be finished just with RPG. Luckily, as you can see, the tank is still in one piece. I don't see any signs of the internal fire or something. Clearly there's the damage towards the caterpillar on the left. That's it. Maybe the armor was penetrated or something is wrong with the engine, but if our guys would go there with special engineering equipment, the tank has all the chances to be evacuated from the place. But for now it's dangerous to deploy any kind of the engineering equipment to that particular field. It is hard to say where this fight happened, maybe even on a Kupiansk direction. Maybe Ukraine tries to use those tanks as the tanks, but the main idea of this tank, on my personal opinion, that it should just be used for the infantry backup, to get rid of the Russian infantry vehicles or other stuff. Using it alone in the field, I don't think it's a good strategy for this particular tank. There is one more video of the Ukrainian tank operation. Also, the tank works alone, but it's hidden by environment. This is the Soviet-made, I think, T-64 tank of the 95th Air Assault Brigade. I think this brigade is from Zhytomyr, as far as I remember. In this case, the tank operated quite successfully on the enemy positions, demolishing everything. So tanks could be used very successfully, even alone on the front lines, but it should be very fast, like go, run, fight and leave the positions, and later on the infantry goes on the same positions deployed by the infantry vehicles, and in that case we need the Leopard 1A5, the tanks which might back up our infantry, then they clear the front lines. Meanwhile, Russia also tried to assault through the open fields in the Kharkiv region, again near Kupiansk, and Ukraine this time used artillery on the Russian armored vehicles, totally demolishing 2 of them. 1 vehicle went back. So the tactics for both of the sides is mostly the same. Drones spot the movement of the enemy, later on they send the signal to artillery, and artillery is ready to target the positions. And the result for both of the armies is basically the same: heavy losses. That is why Ukraine is not really advancing that much nowadays on the front lines. Mostly our guys advance during the night time with infantry forces, but Russia continued to send their forces during the daytime and massively, much more massively compared to Ukraine. This video shows the Ukrainian air defense operation on the Russian Orlan 10 surveillance drone. Luckily, it was successfully hit. The Orlan drones are pain in the ass for Ukrainian army because they spot the Ukrainian positions and correct the artillery fire or even the Russian aviation to target the Ukrainian positions. Russia has hundreds of them. Today, Russia lost 1 more general, to be more precise, Major General Vladimir Vasilievich Zavadsky. He died on the front lines because he was forced to go to the front lines to command directly with his forces, because Russia is in lack of the communication tools, reliable communication tools, to operate their army units. That is why Russia has tremendous losses in their general command. Hopefully we're going to receive the details of how exactly Russian general lost his life on the front lines. Usually it happens because of the HIMARS attack or the drone attack. Sometimes Ukraine uses the cruise missiles to target the Russian headquarters. I don't think that this guy went just into the trenches. He was in the command unit, somewhere near to the front lines. Okay, the Russian channels say that he stepped on the mine.
My dog stepped on a bee.
Or exploded on the mine. They even give the time but no direction, no coordinates where it happened. Well, I just need to find the place where Russia fights with their 14th Army Corps. It will take me some time, so probably I'll update the information about this case tomorrow. What is interesting about this general, that he was fighting in Ukraine since the last year, and he was responsible also for the defense of Izum, or for the offense in that direction. At some point he was evacuated from Izum and from the Kharkiv Oblast. He actually was one of the main Russian generals in the war against Ukraine. He had the wife and 2 of the sons. Both of the sons went to military to support their father killer. Okay, it seems like the Russian barricades, which are used to prevent the Ukrainian attacks on a Kerch bridge, were damaged by the recent storm in the Black Sea. So they were placed before, and on the new satellite images they're all gone. The same goes for Sebastopol. Russia put some barricades in the bay, but they gone too because of the high waves. Putin has signed the budget for the Russian army for the next year, and unfortunately this is the record bill for all of the years since the Russian independence. Almost 11 trillion rubles. It's 110 $10 billion. Ukraine may only dream about those funds in Ukrainian army. The Russian military budget for 2024 is 70% more compared to the military budget for this year. It's just crazy. It means that Russia will spend more on the army than on the social support of their people. Also for the first time. So why is it happening like that? Because Russia still has the income from the oil, gas and other resources that it continued to sell even to the Western countries. So yes, the country is under the sanctions, but sanctions might be bypassed or sanctions do not work as they should. Unfortunately, if Ukraine doesn't have enough resources to continue this war, Russia would take initiative the next year with this enormous resource for their army. We need immediate military support of Ukraine from United States, Germany and other countries. Well, the good sign is that United States will continue to support Ukraine and soon we're gonna obtain the new military package for our country. It's good, but again, unfortunately, Russia has more resources for the next year, obviously. Okay, by the time I'm recording this video, there is some welding in Sevastopol, or maybe it's not the welding, but the fire on a local power plant. Not a long time ago, Russia put even more strict rules on publishing the photos or videos from those kind of the events happening in the Russian Federation. So sometimes we are out of clue of what exactly was happening or is happening in particular spot. But there is some welding in the local power plant for sure. My friends, please don't forget to press the like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And also, if you want to support my channel, there will be some of the links in the video description just below. Special thanks for my Patreon supporters and the sponsors of my YouTube channel. Guys, you're awesome. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.